Welcome back. You guys are the spiritual warriors here, huh? All right. I'm impressed how many people are here, and I'm so glad you're ready in your PJs. You know, we're going to retire at night. So the handouts that I gave you, they're long. They are not the nightly review, obviously. They are contemplations, okay? Because the reason I wrote all these handouts I did just for this weekend. So some of you guys I've seen at other places, and I often do upon awakening and when we retire at night. But these are some different ones because of how I structured the weekend. So these are thoughts. These are my contemplations, basically, because I want you to have an attitude adjustment. That's the idea, right? How do I come to this from a place of love? The real challenge that most people have is that we feel judged. And we use the word judged negatively. But judgment is good. In 6 and 7, one of the first things I always say is every character defect is just a character asset out of proportion. Okay? So judgment is good. You need good judgment. You know, you should look both ways before you cross the street, or you could get hit by a car. You know, you shouldn't go out with someone you know is, you know, a dangerous person who hates you. I mean, which I did. But I mean, you know, I had bad judgment. Okay, when you don't use your judgment, it's not a good thing. Or when you use it in a negative way, it's condemnation. And one of the main reasons people don't do the nightly review is because at the end of it, they feel like they've just beaten themselves up. They feel condemned instead of lifted, right? And again, it's when we constructively review our day, we are trying to build a life that takes us to happy, joyous, and free. So what do I need to do in order to have that? Last year sometime, my son, he's 20, and he was driving my Suburban, and he said something kind of off the cuff about how bad the weather was, and he kept having to pull over to the side to slosh windshield wiper fluid from a gallon on the windshield. And I said, why? Why didn't you just use the little sprayer? He said, well, it doesn't work. I said, when did it break? He said, a long time ago. And he had been driving the car a good bit. And I'm thinking, this is weird. So I get in the car. It's not broken. It's empty. It's not broken at all. But evidently, when my husband, who does not drive my car very often, except to take the kids skiing, obviously I'm not a skier. I've never skied, don't think it's going to be on the agenda. And he would take the kids skiing, and he didn't know where the button was, so he thought it was broken. So he got a gallon of stuff, and he would pull over every now and then and slosh it on the windshield. So my son assumed that it was broken. He didn't know he had everything he needed to have a clean windshield. He's looking through muck. And so are we. God is the windshield wiper fluid that comes off and clean the screen. How do we clean the screen? My ideas about God calls the shots. Who I think God is to me calls the shots. If I think God is up there saying, get the redhead, it's going to feel like condemnation. If I choose, and it is choice, if I choose to have, let me go back. So in step 2, we came to believe. To believe something is a choice. The second step proposition, God either is or he isn't. What is our choice to be? That one really stumped me, to be honest. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it was worded. There was something about it that just seemed a little like, if God is everything, then God is the devil, God is mean people. It was too much for me. But Einstein said, the most important decision you will ever make is whether you live in a hostile or a friendly universe. That's basically what the question is. God is either everything or he's nothing. In the big book, one of the terms for God, it says, don't let your prejudice keep you from honestly asking what these terms, spiritual terms, mean to you. And that doesn't mean I like this one, I don't like that one, or not for me. So I've actually done this a bunch of times, going through and finding these names for God, and then actually asking myself, what do they mean? And some of them were like, because I have prejudices, and which is what they're saying. Can we let go of them? No, I don't want to let go of them. So one of them is father of light. Well, first of all, my father who wants a father when you've got a father? I mean, our father. I'm the girl that was changing the prayer. One of the old timers said, I really hope you can stick around long enough that you won't need to change the prayer anymore. And I love that prayer today, not because I think God's a man, because I really don't know. I mean, that's the reality. I don't know, nor do I really care. My God is big enough that God's not going to care if you get his name wrong. That's my God. My God is love. And I'm a nerd, if you have, as I've told you. And in math, is an equal sign. Okay? So what is on one side of an equal sign is exactly the same as on what's on the other side. So when you say 1 plus 1 is 2, that's equal. So God is love, God, equal. You can flip them around wherever you want. That's the one, I've studied a lot of religions. It's one thing every single religion agrees. God is love. So if it doesn't speak of love, it doesn't speak of God. That's kind of where I started. I don't understand God. If I did, I think the game would be over. I don't get it. The universe is expanding. That much I can tell you. That is scientifically proven. The universe is expanding. So therefore, God must be too, I guess. I'm going to do a little, hang on, I have a pen here somewhere. There it is. All right. So the shortest distance between two dots. What?
A straight line.
Everybody in favor of straight line, raise your hand. Wrong.
That's a half a straight line.
That's basically a black hole. That's a miracle. We're so convinced it's a straight line. You see, I can't understand God because my brain limits it. When I know something to be true, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Everybody learned that in math class, geometry, or some crap like that, right? But that's not true. It's not. It's really not true in physics. It's simply wrong. And yet, we believe it, and so it runs our life. What you choose to believe makes everything, all the decisions. My life today is really a sum of my beliefs about God. And when I change my beliefs, and that's what step 2 says, God either is or he isn't. Let's let Einstein translate it. Who would have thought Einstein could say it more simply, right? The most important decision you will ever make is whether you live in a hostile or a friendly universe. He also said that what he knows about the world makes him believe that there is a God. But what he doesn't understand about the world convinces him. There's so much, spirit of nature, Father of light. That was one of the ones. Oh, like I said, Father, please. What is darkness? The absence of light. There is no such thing, really. Darkness is not a thing. Light actually is a thing. But darkness is the absence of a thing. In order to have a child, biologically speaking, right, you need sperm. Y chromosome. Somebody with a Y chromosome has to make a thing in order to have a baby. That's all it is. And then that gets mixed with the egg, and you end up with life, okay? So, if Father of light, there has to be God. God is the light, open. So whether you look at old, religions and stuff like that, like, let there be light. Can you believe in the light? If you can't, you're in darkness. The further I am away from God, the more I shiver in the darkness. That's it, right? And I get hung up on the words. But when I look at what the intent is, and if I assume love and not malice, these sexist, whatever, I'm sure a lot of you have read about, Bill was not always a well-behaved person. True. He also lived in a time when that was pretty common. But it's only because of Bill that you and I are here. Dr. Bob really didn't want us here. I know, nobody talks about that. Dr. Bob didn't think women should be in AA. Nobody wanted women in AA, basically. Bill made sure we got to be here. How about that? Bill actually sponsored some women too. That's why we get to be here. Because he did believe that when anybody anywhere reaches out for help, he wanted the hand of AA always to be here, and he was willing to take that responsibility and the flack that came with it. When the genesis of the story that that they talk about, the only requirement for membership, right, that we can't exclude people, et cetera, and so on, that was because of verbiage has changed. So today I think the best way to say it, I'm trying to be sensitive, but was a man who liked to dress as a woman. And Bill stood up and made sure that that person could continue to come to meetings. They not have that person kicked out. He's a little more woke than we give him credit for sometimes. So what does that have to do with anything? Well, it helps me to put love back, catch them being good. Catch them being, let's stop looking and pointing the fingers at everybody about what they're doing wrong, because everybody's making mistakes. Evidently more than 600 every day, because that's the Dalai Lama, right? I mean, the rest of us, 6 million, I don't know. But, because when it comes to how we see God, we've got a lot of work to do. That's what it boils. We have a lot of work to do. We don't even realize what we believe. The things that we believe are driving everything. And God is never toxic. Again, if it doesn't speak of love, it doesn't speak of God. I have apple trees in my backyard. You know what I've never gotten off my apple tree? An orange. An orange, a pear, a grapefruit, a banana, because you can't get it from an apple tree. It is only an apple tree. It is an apple tree. And so whatever comes from it produces just that. So if it doesn't speak of God, if it doesn't speak of love, it didn't come from God. We do have self-will. Like I said, I was abducted because somebody was going to get hurt that night. Not because God was up there going, you should have that, or you should have that. Because we all get stuff. The question isn't You see, one of the most misquoted things, people get up to the podium and they say, I'm going to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. Do you know what the problem with that is? It's wrong. How it works. It's in how it works. What we were like, what happened, and what we are like now. It is life. And life will keep happening. But how I respond to life is different. I don't have to let you keep pushing my buttons. I don't have to drink. I don't have to fly into a rage. I can have choices, not because I have the power, but because I'm plugged into power. If you don't plug the light in, it doesn't work. And so we have to get connected, because it's not my power. What I have dealt with in my life, in sobriety, is not because it is too much. It is too much. What I've dealt with is too much, period, end of story. It just is. Nobody should have to deal with the stuff I've dealt with. And that's why I need God. Don't tell me what God can't do. When my daughter was born, she stopped breathing twice before I even got her home from the hospital. She had a spinal tap when she was just about a month old. And kids like mine, like her, often don't survive. My son was even worse. It turned out that what they had were like insane allergies. Milk, soy, eggs, wheat, nuts, fish, shellfish, corn, peas, carrots, latex, never mind environmentals, horses. Rafe would get into the ocean and start vomiting. He couldn't walk, he couldn't talk. They had to move his mouth to help him learn to talk. They had to move his legs to help him learn to walk. Both of my kids went to Harvard. My son is an Eagle Scout. He's an airplane pilot. He hikes. He was on the United States debate team. Don't tell me what God can't do. And they have no allergies. Wow. And everybody told me I was crazy to be listening to that God. Nothing is too big for God. It's all too big for me. But nothing is too big for God. We're sitting in a room full of miracles. It's this is not my problem. This is my problem. Attitude adjustment. Do I want to believe in a God that wants me happy, joyous, and free? Am I willing to have a spiritual temper tantrum? This is why the nightly review is so important. When I tucked my kids in at night, I let them tell me about their day. My son got really bullied. I mean, like actionably, like horrifically sometimes. He had a lot of challenges, and kids are mean, especially when he's freaking brilliant. He's just finished his sophomore year, and he's taking graduate level physics classes. I mean, the kid is unbelievable. And all I did was not screw him up. That's all. And I've given them things like right of decision. Oop, that's a concept. Which means I trust them. Like they get to make their own lives, and they don't need my permission, and I catch them being good, and I'm trying to really see them, because I don't believe God makes junk. When they were little, for both of them, for 19 months, I drank a disgusting hypoallergenic formula so that I could continue to breastfeed them, because the doctors believed that the antibodies would help, and there was nothing else. And I did that as long as I could for my son, and he was still eating a hypoallergenic formula as his main nutrition at the age of 4.5. And like I said, today's allergy free. Don't tell me what God can't do. When I took him to see this woman who I had heard about, took both my kids, the doctors told me that I was irresponsible. I thought I was irresponsible not to try everything because they weren't safe in the world. The public schools wanted to put my daughter in an isolation room because of her allergies. I mean, it wasn't just nuts, you know? Like, what do you do? Like, she's allergic to the sandwiches, and, you know, what do you do? Ask them to wash their hands after lunch? That's all, but that was too much. So I learned to make cake out of tapioca because that was about the only thing they weren't allergic, and it was good. And people asked me for the recipe because I did not want them to feel like God's stepchild. I had a crappy mother. My mother never wanted children, and she made sure that we all knew it, and we all knew that she had ruined our lives, her life, because she told us to, so on a regular basis. She lost her career because she had children, which she never wanted. And I'm so glad I had her for my mother. The best teachers are the ones that show you what not to do. From the time I was little, and my father was beating me up, I knew he was wrong. I went to my mother. I know that I couldn't have been older than 3 because of certain things about it. And I told her that Daddy was hitting me, and she looked at me and she said, "And what did you do to deserve it?" And you'll wonder why I didn't like God. Because we model after what we see. They were my gods. They were the power. And I need to fire that God. Get him out of there. There's no love in that story. I knew. I would hide in the bottom of the closet, and the door had swung so often into the sheetrock. We lived in an old house. I grew up below the poverty line, and the doorknob hit the sheetrock so often there was a hole in the closet. I built a little altar in there. My little stuffed animals are in there, and I'd hide in there when I knew he was coming for me, and I'd be praying that he wouldn't find me. Of course, he always did. And I thought that that meant that God hadn't protected me because I was asking God to protect me. Today, I know God did protect me. You know how? Because I knew he was wrong. I always knew he was wrong. I always knew it was him, and I always, something inside of me, even though it did a lot of damage, there was that nugget down in there going, that shouldn't be happening. Long before I had any real evidence that that shouldn't be happening. That's my God. That's the inner compass. That's the divine discontent. That's the up to which I will not put, because somebody asked me, oh God, okay, that went fast. Somebody asked me, 7th back surgery? Why? And I said, because it wasn't good enough, that where I was wasn't good enough for God. That's why. That's the attitude adjustment. So we went through a lot of this, but where I want to go is at the end, right? So, but we must be careful, proper attitude, not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. So we have to be using that 10th step. You're watching the whole time, right? And as soon as you see yourself start thinking something like, yeah, God doesn't love me, or anything negative, anything that doesn't speak of love, not God, and you come back. That we have to be willing to use that 10th step to have a 11th step nightly review that feels like what I tried to give my kids at night, which was to tuck them in, to let them tell me about their day, to let me tell them about their fears, to let them tell me about their fears, to let them tell me about, the mistakes that they made. And if they wanted, if they asked, if they gave me spiritual consent, to even help them think about how they might approach it differently or better or solve a problem. to be their support, to tell them, you know, you got this. I taught my son to meditate. He had terrible nightmares. Like I said, he got a lot of bullying. And we took them to Disney World because Disney World was literally the only place on earth that could handle all my kids' allergies. And it was the only time I ever didn't have to cook. And the first time I went, I really didn't believe it was true, but it really was true. Like they had we were right there next, they baked things for my children each day. And they made sure that my kids were safe the whole time. And it really was a magical place on earth for all of us. And so he's having these, he's little, and he's scared, and he's got this crap going on. And I taught him to close his eyes, and I said, okay, we're on Main Street, USA. You see the castle ahead? Where do you want to go? Directed thinking. Because you don't have to think about the monsters. You don't have to feed the negative. You can learn to come back, to come back, to come back. You can choose love. You can. It is possible. After making our review, here's the prayer, and this is the part that pissed me off. We ask God's forgiveness. What the F? Okay, God made us imperfect. We can't get through the day without screwing up. Minimum 600 mistakes a day if you're really levitating. So now, God's sitting in judgment, it feels like. That's how it felt to me. Now I've got to beg God's forgiveness. Well, that's one way of reading it. That's certainly the God that I was taught. As God's people, we walk on our feet. We don't bow or scrape before anyone. Do you know what it means to be an individual? People think it means we're separate. It actually means undivided, indivisible, right? To not be divided, that we are actually connected, right? We're individualizations of God. Like there is God in me. Down deep inside every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. That's my inner compass. That's the love that I feel. If Darwin was right, we wouldn't give a flip about the tsunamis or the earthquakes or the fires or the environment or anything or anyone. But we do. That's God. That's what I want to nurture. That's what I want to see. That's what this is about. So in that light, let's say my car broke down. And I asked Janine for her car so I could run to CVS to get a prescription. We ask God's forgiveness, right? What if what I'm really asking, you see, I couldn't stand myself. I can't forgive myself. Lack of power is my dilemma. I don't have the ability to forgive me because I know all the crap that's inside of me. It's easier for me to forgive you because I don't see all the crap inside. So I need to see through God's eyes. I need to borrow God's forgiveness. I need God to have the windshield wiper fluid and lots of it to clean that windshield. Because, believing in a God, really honestly, it's a God that's too good to be true. That's what we keep telling ourselves. It can't be true. God can't actually want me happy, joyous, and free. God made us so we can't get through a day without making mistakes. So why would he be standing in judgment? He's not. He's standing there to help. And he's standing there to offer us a new perspective, to clean the windshield. Look at yourself through God's eyes. When I look at my son, I didn't see a broken child. I never once thought when my daughter was born, why did God give me sick kids? Now that's a miracle in and of itself. What I thought was, I am so glad they have a mother who will stop the world to help them and they didn't get my mom. It is my opportunity to show them that when you ask, love does come. That you can trust and rely on that God, on that love. Do I do it perfectly? No, and I can tell you a lot of stories. My daughter and son can both tell you lots of stories about that. But when I ask God's forgiveness, I'm saying, God, please let me see me through your eyes. Because lack of power is my dilemma. I don't know how to bring the light into the dark because I can't make light. I can only ask for that light to come in. And inquire, ask again, what corrective measures should, there's the ideal, be taken. Just like when my kids say, how do I deal with the kid who keeps beating me up? Well, will you help me? And do I always know right away? No, but it's so interesting, and it goes with, Upon Awakening, which is what, tomorrow morning we're doing Upon Awakening. And I'm doing this out of order because we're retiring, and then we're waking up. That's kind of what I ended up doing. It's a bunch of different conferences over the years. So that you can try this out, okay? Have a new experience. Try lots of things, but make it easy. If it's too hard, you will stop. If you don't feel good at the end, you've done something wrong. Okay? You should feel loved. You should feel like this incredible, the parent that I wish I had is tucking me in at night and trying to do anything they can to make sure that I am safe and protected and given all that I need to face all of my problems, not some of them, all of them, because nothing is too big for my God. And those corrective measures mostly are learning to do that 10th step even more. I pray to be reminded to pray. I have touchstones, Touchstones are literally, they used to be, you'd put a little stone in your coin purse, and when you went to pay for something, you'd touch the stone. And it would remind you. Do you know why the church bells ring on the hour? To call you to prayer, not to tell you the time. That's the deal. That's why they also ring at weddings and all these. They're calling us. They're calling us. So what else can call you? So my sponsor wears a rubber band and she snaps it. I can't do that because I use hair ties a lot. But I do have, like, this one's an infinity. I mean, I have sometimes beads, or, when people wear crosses, those are touchstones. I'm wearing this, it's a touchstone. One of my favorite touchstones, okay, I can't use it anymore. Well, I sort of can. I'm really bad at tying my shoes. That's seriously, anyway, they come untied all the time. Every time I had to tie my shoes, I got one knee on the ground. I'm thinking of God and love. That's it. Drop a pencil, there's another one. I encourage you to think of some touchstones. Things that will remind you, remember, found a penny, picked it up, all day long you'll have good luck, and now you've got it in your shoe and it's like you notice it all day? Yeah. There you go. How do you notice God? How do you catch God being good? And the more you see God, the more you will see the real you. So, sleep tight. Enjoy your night. Don't make other plans, because if you don't enjoy it, you have. So go with that vision and that intent that God does want you happy, joyous, and free. And for those, what time are we starting in the morning? 7 a.m. Upon Awakening. And then afterwards, if you would like to join I do a big book study, and I'm going to be doing it hybrid tomorrow morning, and you guys are welcome. It's not on the schedule. It's at 9 o'clock, so after breakfast. We're doing it in here. Correct? I mean, we're doing it in here. Yeah. And so good night, and we'll see you in the morning. God bless.
Thank you.